Hey guys, how's it going? Kevin Cleary here with a comparison video for you. This is one that I've actually been thinking about for a little while. I just hadn't really spent enough time with the 0308 to start doing any of these, although I'm starting to get a good handle on it and a good feel, and my thoughts are sort of starting to crystallize. So I'll probably have a review coming up in the not too distant future, but in the meantime, there's a couple of comparisons that I really wanted to do with it, and this is absolutely one of them. So what we have here is the zero tolerance 0562. This is the TI. Most of my comments will pertain specifically to the TI, although there'd be a lot of crossover with the various other models. There's a G10 version in LMAX steel. There's the carbon fiber version, which is probably these days in 20 CV as well, but it used to be in a couple of other things. And then obviously, there's only the one version of the 308. It'll be interesting to see, though, what they do with it. And I've already had a number of you comment that I'm not in love, that you're not in love with this particular color of the scales, but that you'd like this in various other colors. And even some of you have said, "Hey, I did a scale swap." Or dyed my scales or did something like that. So anyway, although there aren't that many versions of this, actually you can go to USA Made Blade and buy these with different scales, but the way I understand it is you can't buy the scales separately at this point. Anyway, let's get into this comparison. These are not that dissimilar in price point. The retail on this is like $280, and I think the retail on this is about $280 as well. This, of course, is going to be a very classic, well-known, and well-loved zero tolerance. It's been around for a long time, and it's very popular, and I believe with good reason. Okay, it's a pretty nicely balanced option. It carries a lot of the toughness and a lot of the ZT aesthetic. Without going overboard. This one, you know, probably goes a little overboard, but if you're into that, then this is going to be your obvious choice. But we'll work through some comparisons here and see how it all plays out. By the way, as always, I'd love to have your comments down below. When I'm going to declare, you know, I'm going to grant points based on different categories, and I'm happy to have you disagree with me on those various categories and make your own points in the comments. So let's go ahead and get into this, beginning with the 0562, since it's the one we're most familiar with. Size and weight, this guy is 8 5/16, so just a little over 8 1/4, 3.5 inches on the blade, 4 7/8, so almost 5 inches on the handle. The grip area here is basically 4 inches, and it weighs in at 5.4 ounces. And in terms of carrying this guy around, it's actually pretty nice. You know, some of you probably don't like going all the way up to 5 ounces, but for me, you know, anything under, you know, 6 ounces, I don't really make an issue out of the weight. So let's go ahead and take a look at this guy. Obviously quite a bit bigger, 8 15/16, so we may as well just call it 9 inches. Okay, so that's not quite 3/4 of an inch bigger than the 0562, 3 3/4 inches on the blade, so definitely larger blade, and you can see that pretty obviously here in the comparison. By the way, I'm trying to keep the camera as level as possible so you're not getting any perspective changing how they look in comparison to one another. 5 1/4 inches on the handle. Okay, so it's, you know, full 1/4 inch bigger on the handle, 4 inches of grip area. Now, the one number that's quite a bit more here is the weight, and this guy weighs in at 7 ounces, so quite a bit heavier. And in terms of carry, the 0562 is the clear winner. You know, when you're carrying this guy around, you definitely know you have a knife in your pocket. It's definitely noticeable. And it's, you know, but the fact is, people who like a big knife, they're used to that. They're used to having something that's a little more bulky and obvious in pocket. The 0562, I really don't find that I even notice it. And again, that's my tolerance. I know some of you won't be as comfortable with a bigger knife, but for me, I don't even notice this guy in my pocket. This guy, I definitely do. So on size and weight and how comfortable it is to carry, the 0562 definitely wins here, unless, of course, you want some of those features and you're willing to carry something bigger. But for me, in terms of something I'm going to carry around every day, the 0562 clearly gets the nod on in terms of being a little bit better. Let's move on down to the blades here. Give you a little bit of a closer look at this guy. Closer look at this guy so you can start to make some of your own choices and think through what you might say about this. Okay, so my own, hold on, let's see if I can get the glare off that a little bit. That's a little better. Okay, so Both are 20 CV steel. This is going to be drop point with the hinder or slicer grind. Fairly, pretty common blade that we're kind of used to if you've been around the knife world for a while. Stonewash on this little bit of a flat here, and then satin on the primary bevel and the swedge. I really, really like the contrast provided by that. I kind of almost wish every blade was like that. I know that'd be a little much, but I definitely prefer it to the straight stonewash here. It's not that I dislike a stonewash blade. I like it, but I definitely prefer satin. I already mentioned they're both 20 CV. They're both drop point. We've got a bit of a swedge here, nice little thumb swale. Higher grind here, okay, and that's going to be pretty significant. When you actually go and start cutting stuff with these two knives, the transition, okay, the distance it takes to get to the full blade width is much more gradual over here. So this actually, despite being bigger and perhaps looking or feeling a little bulkier, this actually slices a bit better. And it's just because the distance here to get to that full blade stock thickness is quite a bit different. Okay, now having said that, this is always the challenge with these comparisons. Okay, sometimes knives, and this is one of those cases, are so close that, well, I have to say that this is definitely the winner. If someone was saying, I'm really on the fence about these two, and there's some other things I'm concerned about, but I want to know, how different is cutting performance. Honestly, it's so close that I wouldn't make it a primary decision-making factor, okay? So yes, this slices a little bit better, and so in terms of blade performance, this guy's going to get the win, the 0308. However, in terms of looks, I definitely like the looks of the 0562 better. Let's switch these around as we kind of work our way through here. Okay, and maybe you can see that here. I just love that transition. I love satin grind, so that's part of what I like about it. But I like the way this catches the light. I like the contrast created between the stonewash and the satin. I just think the overall look of this blade is a little bit better than this one. And in fact, had they taken some cues here, I think, that probably would have made a difference in maybe even the reception of this knife. I'll talk more about that when we get to the full review. All right, let's move on now, having declared this one the winner in terms of performance, this one the winner in terms of looks, but that one's a little more subjective. So really, I'm going to give the point to the 308. Next, both of these are KVT bearings from Kershaw. Both of them are flippers. Both of them are pretty enjoyable. Okay, now I've commented before that this is not the best action on any knife that I've seen. All right, and in this case, this is one of the places where that comes to play. The action on the 308 is definitely better. The detent is just a little crisper, I'm going to say. It's not that one is stiffer than the other. They're actually both very similar. The detent is a little crisper here, and whether it be the size or weight of the blade, or whether it be just the construction or attention to detail, or maybe there's even a little Loctite gumming up the works in this one. Whatever the case may be, this is definitely a little smoother and a little more enjoyable. Even the lock bar tension could be, contributing to that. You can see they're both good. Okay, and they're definitely, I like both of them quite a bit, but the 0308 definitely wins in terms of action. It's just a little faster, a little snappier, a little smoother all around. Okay, moving on to the handle. By the way, could I take these apart and clean them and try to work on the two of them and get them closer together? Yes, that's very likely possible. I've had like 3 of these knives in the past, including, I guess 3 including this one, maybe more, maybe 4. Let's go with 3 just to be on the conservative side. And they're always good, but they're never spectacular. Okay, let's go on and talk about the handle. Obviously, this is going to be one of the bigger differences. This is a full tie handle. It's not 3D machined. It's stonewashed. It's a little simpler and plainer. This one obviously has a lot more going on. We've got the black hardware on both. Here we've got a wrench. Now, in my initial impressions, now remember, I do that video like within 15 minutes of getting the knife out. But you can see these two flat sides here that are meant to accommodate a wrench. I think I mentioned it using a spanner tool, which is not accurate. Okay, so it's got a wrench on this guy, Torx over on that guy. We've got this cutout. Now let's hit the things that I like or that I feel like make this a little nicer than this, and then we'll come back to ergonomics. So I definitely prefer the 3D machining on, come on, focus you. There we go. I definitely prefer the 3D machining on the 308. Notice it's on both sides. I really, really like that. I like while I like the standoff construction on both, I like the texturing. I like the feel in hand. And that's always, I don't think there would be a good way to add texturing to this without kind of ruining the design. But I will say I definitely feel like the texturing here is a welcomed addition and does add some extra feel. And so in terms of construction, there's nothing here that I'm going to say is, way superior. Both of these, they're titanium frame lock flippers. They have all the modern accoutrements that we expect, like a stainless steel lock bar insert and an over travel stop and, clip, movable clip. Like those things are all pretty similar. So essentially it comes down to, do you like the G10 or the titanium? Of course, there is a G10 or a carbon fiber version of this if you wanted to go that route. And then the other thing is, how do they feel in hand? And to be honest, it's really too close to call. Both of these feel quite comfortable in hand. The 0560 is maybe a little bit more, maybe matches the profile of my hand a little bit better, but the extra size and girth of this handle is a little more confidence inspiring. So it depends on which one of those you're going to, prioritize in your own desires. But for me, guys, I hate to say this, but I've got to call the handle a tie. Okay, both of them are so close to me. Now in the looks department, that's a different category. In the design, I definitely am going to go with the 0560. I just like the cleanness and the simplicity of it. 0562 is what I should have said there. So I like the cleanness, I like the simplicity of it. And you could dress it up a little bit, and we've had this conversation before. The problem with that is you end up dropping quite a bit of money into this. If I did everything that you could to it, I'd like to change out the bearings. I'd like to change out the hardware. That's going to be, over, it's going to be like $150. Well, now this is, a $450 knife, and I'd rather just go buy a Chris Reeve. I don't know why I couldn't come up with that. Okay, so overall, both of these are great knives. The 0562 is a classic for a reason. The 0308 wanted to kind of keep those that ZT lineage and look and feel like a ZT, but add something new. And so it added this cutout, which I'm not in love with, and a couple of other things. And I think it kind of succeeded, but I don't know, they should have taken some clues, I think, from this design, and they probably could have done it a little bit better. If you said, held a gun to my head and said, Kevin, you have to get rid of one of these, you can only keep one, I would definitely be keeping the 0562, even though in terms of which one won what category, it was pretty much a tie. So there you go, guys. That's my comparison. That's my overall conclusion. Thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and don't forget to check those links down below. It definitely helps the channel. We'll talk to you soon.